We work in the space of energy access, which means that we collaborate very closely with communities, government, different stakeholders to co-design energy systems for off-grid, rural and remote areas that currently don't have electricity access. Enact's main focus area is participatory and collaborative energy access as a means for community development. So we go beyond just simple electricity connections, and we really want to focus on how can we use developing energy systems to really achieve communities' development goals. One thing that we've done over the years is we've developed some very participatory approaches and methodologies and tools. And one of the tools that we created was called the Community Energy Toolkit, or COMET. Now, this tool is a community engagement software tool that is basically a mini-grid simulator, which we take into communities and run workshops. So using the tool, we basically get to simulate electricity access for communities. And through the workshop, participants get to kind of pretend like they have electricity access through these simulations. And so it's kind of like a Sims game. So they can purchase appliances, they can put it in their homes, and then they turn them on and off according to a simulation clock. And then all of the participants' devices, each device acts like a household connection. They're all networked and aggregated into a mini-grid system. And so the participants get to see what it looks like to have electricity access. They get to see the effects of turning on and off appliances, what load profiles cost to them, like how much would it cost. And then they can collectively decide on how big systems should be, how much it should cost them, and what value that it gives to them in terms of their own development goals. So we focus a lot on capacity building, and there are many challenges that come with capacity building when we're working with rural and remote communities. A lot of it has to do with some very practical things like how do we get out there in rural and remote communities, how do we get resources out there, how do we get tools and materials out there. But these are just kind of technical problems that you can find a solution for. What we really find challenging is really communicating the need for very practical and very real capacity building programs for communities that achieve the goals that we're trying to implement. So a lot of people, in principle, would understand that training is important for rural communities to understand how to operate their renewable energy mini-grid systems, for example. But the resources are kind of lacking and not really available for those types of programs. And so we really need to better communicate how this ties into more sustainable energy systems and try to kind of close the feedback loops to have better programs that not just look at electricity connections as a technical problem, but also include a lot of the social aspects of how do we develop systems that are effective and sustainable. Enact started out as a very sort of as an organization that really prioritized community involvement and engagement, and we still do that throughout all our programs. But over the years, we've also come to realize that we need to collaborate and partner with other stakeholders that are working at different levels of the problem. And so we've started really expanding how we collaborate, not just with stakeholders on the ground, but also working with agencies, international development organizations, to work on policies and advocate for different types of regulation and different types of implementation of rural electrification delivery programs. And so right now, Enact also focuses on engaging government stakeholders on what distributed energy systems can do for energy access. And we do this in Malaysia, where we're based right now, but we're also building networks across Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands to be able to do this at scale. At rural and remote communities, they are at the front lines of climate change, and they actually transition a lot faster than urban communities, because for them, there are no other solutions. They need to transition now in order to be able to build resilience and adapt to climate change.